Good morning. So it's been a while since we've actually had a video. I did videos for the younger kids last week, and I just wasn't sure what to do for you guys because so much of it is us just talking, and on video there's no discussion. There's just me lecturing, and so I didn't want it to be just me lecturing, but I did want to do some updates and information on your research paper, which I know many of you have probably fallen a little bit behind, and that's okay and understandable, but we do want to get back on track. It's not a very long research paper, and it's good to get all your ideas and thoughts in a cohesive place and in an orderly fashion, and just to really learn how to do a short little paper. So if you can't find your schedule, here's the schedule here that I sent out or gave out to you on week 1, I think. And so I'm going to go over it really quickly, and I want you to kind of keep up and see where you are on there. I know you guys have already chosen your sources and emailed or texted me your source list, and that's wonderful. I know some of you sent me your brief outline of the details that you were going to cover in your paper. And so I'm assuming you also have been taking notes, either on note cards, if that's more helpful for you, or like in a notebook, in an orderly fashion in order to have your notes. So week 3 was just to continue garnering information and putting them on your note cards or on your paper. That was week 3. And week 4 is to start putting them into your paper. And so week 4 is probably where we're going to be at this week. I want you to take all the notes that you have written down and all the thoughts that you have written, and start to formulate your paper. And you want to begin with your opening statement paragraph. Your opening paragraph needs to have the main ideas that you're going to cover in it. It should kind of have a interesting first sentence. It can be a question, it can be a statement, it can be a kind of a story lead in, however you want to do it. It can be full of facts. It can be a historical thought or a quote from somebody from history. Something that captures your reader's attention and says, oh, okay, so I'm interested. And then the next part of that same paragraph should have the main topics that you're going to be discussing. So that way your reader knows, oh, okay, we're going to be talking about these things in this paper, and they're expecting that. So then each of your paragraphs that come after that need to fit into the topics that you stated you were going to study. One of the things that Abigail and I had to work through a little bit was there were so many other thoughts, which is this is a short paper, so you're going to have a ton of thoughts, and you want to talk about them, but you have to narrow it down, and that's really difficult once you start reading about things and getting a lot of interesting information on things. But you do have to narrow it down, and so we went through, and she had her opening paragraph, and everything in there that did not really fit in with that, we scratched. And so there were some interesting things that she had in the paper, but they didn't fit in with the general overall structure of how the paper was going, what the paper was going to present. So that's something to keep in mind as you're writing this rough draft, which that's what this is. It's not perfect. It is just getting all of your thoughts on paper, getting your opening statement, and then your concluding paragraph, your opening paragraph, concluding paragraph. And then you're going to work next week on finishing that out, like pulling things out, adding things in. Next week, I'm also going to talk about documentation, how to do any footnotes. If you do quotation or quotes from a book, like exact quotes, then how you put footnotes in for that, and your works cited page. So I will send a couple of links so that you have a visual, and then I'll talk through it for next week. But I just want to let you know where you should be and where you should be working on this. Give me a little update in your email to me, like I talked about in Bible. Just start an email to me today and add to it as you go. So just give me an update on where you are. You can say, hey, haven't even opened the books. And I'll say, great, sounds like you got a lot of work to do this week. But we're just going to start with week 4, just so you know, with on your paper. and work on that for this week. And I'm excited to read about it. I was excited to read some of what Abigail had to say, so I look forward to reading what you guys have to say in the next 3 weeks. Let's see, 3 weeks from now. It'll be finished 3 weeks from now. So have fun, enjoy your research, and it does take a little bit of time outside of school. Sorry, that's the way research papers work. So I'm going to move on to composition. And in composition, you guys need to have one of your narrations that you wrote last week or the week before or the beginning of this week and work on that. And just like the email said, the first thing you do is basic editing. Just like we've been doing in class, you're going to look for punctuation, capitalization, space, verb subject agreement. You know, if you begin in the past tense, you stay in the past tense. If you begin in the present tense, you stay in the present tense. So make sure that your verbs and subject agree. And then we're going to continue with learning commas. So pause the video and work on your narration for a few minutes, and then come back and we'll walk through the elements of style. So if you don't have that book handy, get that book handy before you turn the video back on. Okay, so last week with Elements of Style, this is the book we have. So on page 5, you were supposed to do number 4, which talked about placing a comma before a conjunction introducing an independent clause. And we talked about that in class 2, but I thought this would be a great review for you. So hopefully you've already done that in the narration that you're working on for this week. But today we're going to talk about not joining independent clauses by a comma. So go down to number 5, and I don't think I'm going to read this out loud to you because I think you guys probably do a good job of reading it on your own. But he does give some comparisons for you to look at, which is very good to do. And you probably need to understand what a clause is. So if you don't understand what a clause is, a clause is pretty much a complete thought, but it's really not complete unless it's joined to the rest of a sentence. And the complete thought doesn't mean exactly that it has its own subject and verb. It just means it has a thought that's cohesive and makes sense. So look at that. He's talking also about semicolons in place of conjunctions, the word and, or, nor, but. So look at what a semicolon is and when you can use that, and then go back and look at your narration after reading rule number 5 and see if there's anything in there in your narration that applies to the rule that he's discussing in here. And I'd love to see your before and after. So I don't know if you can take a picture and send it as a link to the email that you're sending me, but that would be helpful for me just to see kind of how you're progressing. So it'd be a before, so the narration before you do anything to it, and then a picture of it afterwards. And I probably should have said that at the video at the very beginning. So if you didn't get a before picture, that's fine. You can just send me an after picture. Okay, and have fun doing your research this week.